not in my league. You out of place, I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going state to state.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Your host, your boy, George McKay's back in studio again today, and I got a good one. I got one of the men in the Ontario Indu Scene that I'm a huge fan of, somebody that I respect and consider a friend. And that's not showbiz talk, because we actually have talked before the podcast. And he also has one of the best heads of hair in all of Ontario Indy. I'll put his hair up against Von Vertigo. That's how confident I really am. Please help me welcome one half of Airstrike, Mike Forte, to Straight Talk Wrestling. How are you, buddy?
George, thanks for having me. Like I said, I mentioned to you before, been really bored and been really looking forward to this interview, man.
Perfect. That's great. Well, we're gonna chop it up for the next 45 or so, talk about all things you. But first things first, I want to talk about you being one of the first professional wrestlers that I've known that has his up and coming line of hair care products. Can you talk to me about that and where that all came to fruition? There it is right there.
You have no idea. I'm like, I got to make sure I have this on hand. I'm pretty sure it's going to come up and I'm just going to slide it on in.
You did. That's the Hair Strike shampoo for everyday use, as the bottle clearly says. So,
and the official shampoo for Raunchy Ronnie's Classy Barbershop.
That's right. The one and only barbershop that I desperately cannot wait for stuff here in Ontario to open up. We're very close. July is around the corner, and I can actually get a proper fade and a proper top up, because I can't do the long hair like you, man. That as soon as it gets a little bit longer than where it is now, I start itching. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it.
Like, it happens regardless, no matter what. Like, even for me, I'll get it every now and then, and literally just, you got to stay on it. It's almost like it's its own entity almost.
So talk to me about Hair Strike. Talk to me about where the idea came from and how you and your partner in crime, your PIC, Mr. Tyler Arrow, you guys decided to get that thing going.
It actually all started with a joke. Like, Arrow and I, we come out there and someone had mentioned, because our tag team name is Airstrike, and I can't remember who started the joke. It might have been Warhead. If I had to put a bet, I think it might have been Warhead, because he came up to us and he said, "Do you guys realize how many hair flips you do in the match?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Every single time you guys get up, you're flipping your hair. It's all over the place. And every single time you guys are throwing punches, the hair's all over the place. You need to put an H in front of your logo and call yourselves Hair Strike and go on and sell shampoo products and hair care stuff." And that joke ran for about, I'd say, a good 7 months. And then Raunch, the joke got to him, and him being a barber, he came up to us and he said, "You know, if you actually want to get shampoo made, because I am a licensed barber, I can make your own original shampoo for you guys, and we could sell it." And I'm looking at Arrow, and I'm like, "Let's do it. Who around here actually sells shampoo? Let's go with this. Why not?" And it turned out better than I thought. Like, even though I'm holding a bottle right now, we are currently sold out. This is just the one that, like, I've kept for myself, because I got to keep at least one of the originals. And we sold out within 2 weeks. Like, we made even the logo for it. It's literally our tag team logo. And we made a video of us slapping a Post-it note with a scribbled on H in front of the A. It's this like 3-minute long video of us doing like the math, the art, the science. We can't come up with anything. We find a Post-it note, smack, and then we can't. That's how we came up with the logo. But we did not think it was going to pick up as quick as it did, to the point where we're waiting for our next order of shampoo, and we're actually also getting conditioner.
Well, you can't have shampoo without conditioner. You can't.
Exactly. We're like, if this sells well, let's follow through with conditioner. 2 weeks later, we're looking at each other. I guess we're making conditioner. And possibly down the line, maybe even beard balm and oil or something like that.
Perfect. And also a 2-in-1. You could do a 2-in-1 as well, right? Hair, shampoo, and conditioner, same bottle.
Yes. Yes.
That would be very good. So when you get your next shipment in, where is it available for everyone to get on the bandwagon and use the shampoo that all the pros are using?
You can either contact myself or Tyler Arrow through Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I do not have a Twitter, and I've had a lot of people give me hell about it, but at the same time, I really don't want to go on Twitter. I had it for about 2 weeks, and I'm like, no, I got to get off this. This is terrible. I felt miserable just scrolling through Twitter, and I'm like, no. I got Instagram. I made a personal Gmail, so you can contact me at mikefortehpw@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram through Mike Forte, or follow me on Facebook through Mike Forte as well. You can follow Raunchy Ronnie Randallson because he does carry our shampoos at his barbershop. And you can also follow Tyler Arrow on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and contact us. Shoot us a message if you're interested in picking some up. We will ship it to you or even drive it to you.
Fantastic. And what's the price point on this wonderful product?
It's $10 a bottle. We were hoping like, oh, we can't charge more than $10 because like with the sale price, you always got to make that 50% of that, what's it called, a profit. And I was more than thankful. I'm like, okay, we can sell it for $10. We don't have to upscale it to 15 because it's legitimate salon quality shampoo. Like it's like a lot of people were like, oh, what shampoo did you grab at like Walmart or something and just twisted the top off and filled everything up with? It's like, no, this is our own thing. This is legitimately our own thing. It's salon quality shampoo.
That's amazing. But you know what? I was there the first time I actually met you in person because I've been a fan of both you and Tyler for a very long time. And you guys were on my short list to get on the show. First time I met you in person, I was sitting down with another good friend of mine, AC Coco. We were at Battle Arts Academy. We were shooting the shit. And in walked you two, and you showed him the bottle. You were super excited, like a kid at Christmas. You're like, oh my God, look. I'm using my bubbly as example, but you're like, AC, look. And he's like, okay, all right, great. He's like, you guys got a logo? And you're like, yeah. And you're like, but I got to tell you about the promotional video. Forget the logo for a second. I got to tell you about everything that we've imagined in this. And it was like this 5-minute rant. And I'm sitting there going, this is hilarious. And then you were working out at the gym, and we got to talking. We struck up the conversation. And next thing you know, we spent like a good half an hour running through your history to the point where I don't need to worry about any research because I had that conversation with you. So I'm locked in. So we'll get all your socials again at the end, and the hair stuff all at the end to make sure people are aware of when they can support both of you guys. But talk to me about your early journey. When we met in person, we spoke about a lot of stuff. Most importantly, the man that trained you, which was one of the greatest Canadian wrestlers of all time, bar none, Lance Storm. A legend in this business, has wrestled from everybody from WCW, ECW, WWE, Impact, all over the place. Lance Storm is a fixture in pro wrestling and the history of the Canadian side of pro wrestling, which a lot of people don't really see much of because it's very difficult for Canadian wrestlers to get that exposure because of all the red tape that comes with crossing the border and how difficult it is for visas and all that shit. It's absolutely nonsensical, and COVID has made it 10 times worse. And we know when the world gets back to normal, restrictions are going to be even harder for talents like you guys to get over stateside and expose them to how wonderful you guys are in the ring. And you two are two of the best in the ring tag team, bar none, one of my favorite tag teams in Ontario. And I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling. So Tyler, I know you're probably watching this. Oh, I know Tyler's going to be watching this when it goes live in July. Tyler, don't worry. I'm coming your way, but I had to get the best hair in Ontario first. You're top 5, Tyler. You're top 5, but Mike is number 1. Mike and Von Vertigo, they switched for me 1, 2. It's just the flowing locks are ridiculous.
It's funny you say that because I'm pretty sure someone said, hey, when are you guys going to be inviting Von Vertigo to the Hairspray Club? And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should probably like kind of push that down the line. Absolutely. Maybe, heck, maybe once we get the conditioner, and we might bring in a few other guys and do a commercial with other people instead of just using us for that commercial.
Do you guys in Fight or Flight, man. Vertigo and Fuerza, you guys do that, it'll sell out like hotcakes. I can just see all of you like slow motion, water, hair flips, and the shampoo. And it's like, look, we just wake up looking this good after we've used the shampoo.
Got to get the John Morrison like slow-mo camera.
You do, yes, you absolutely do. But talk to the Straight Talk faithful about the journey to Lance Storm and how that all got started.
It's the funny thing is I wasn't actually the one that was pushing myself to go to Lance Storms. It was at the point in my life where I was just I was getting past the day, and 3 of my buddies actually gifted me with going to Calgary. I'm just going to throw their names out there. Wolf Candlish, Mike DeCesare, Richard Costelli. Thank you guys so much. I can't thank them enough for that. They showed up at my house Christmas of 2014, and they said to me, "We're shipping you off to Calgary to go train with Lance Storm." I'm looking at them, I'm like, you're either pulling my leg or you're serious. And once I found out it was true, I'm like, oh my God, I was both excited and terrified at the same time, because I was going to be all the way on the other side of Canada with people I have no idea who they are. I've never been that far away from my family for such an extended period of time. But training with Lance and the group of people that I had, like training at Storm Academy, I could not have asked for a better group of people. I got to stay at the Storm House with 4 other guys. Miss them all. Love you guys all to death. And I hope to God we meet each other again sometime down the road. I got to see only one of them like after training since then. And I'm hoping to see more again. One of the people that was in my class was Rachel Ellering. So got to know her. Her and Lance like clicked like that. And she just, she might as well have been another daughter for Lance by the end of the class for how close they got. But like everyone got along so well. And it was easily the best 3 months of my life training with Lance. And also, Lance is genuinely a funny person. Like, you see him on TV, and everyone's like, oh, he's such a dry, straight shooter.
Yes.
Straight shooter guy. And then you meet him, and he's making you laugh. Like, of course, like, no pun intended, there's serious time when you're training with him, but whenever he's giving the lectures, he always gives like a comparison story of his own experiences. You're cracking up laughing. You're like, this guy's hilarious. I'm like, where was this guy on the programming? I'm like, he was one of the most entertaining and fun human beings I've ever met. And on top of it, like, it didn't even feel like he was a coach. He almost felt more like a father as time went by. Like, he genuinely cared for everybody in his class. And he knew if you weren't doing something well, he's like, we're going to get back to this. I know you can do it. Like, in terms of that sense, a very similar mindset to my current trainer, Rip Impact. And after those 3 months that I was there, like, we were all in tears by the time we were going our separate ways. And I couldn't thank Lance enough for that, and everybody else at Storm Academy for just making that experience as wonderful as it was. And everything that Lance taught us about, like, make yourself available to these shows, go to these shows, help out at the ring. If there's a seminar, take part at the seminar, try and get ring gear as fast as you can. And that's going to lead to the next story, because as soon as I came back, literally like 4 or 5 days later, as I came off the plane, Alpha One was having a seminar with Eric Young. And I'm like, this is perfect. I've seen a good like couple of dozen of Alpha One shows before I went to Calgary, and I'm like, this is perfect. This is a big local company that I could start like getting to know and start like help set up at the shows. And I do the seminar with Eric Young, and like it was fantastic. It's still to this day probably one of the best seminars I've ever done. And what a guy, Eric Young. And he kind of got thrown off by my voice as well. Because he's looking at me and he's like, you could take the bass out of your voice. I'm like, dude, this is how I talk. And he's like, you should be an announcer. And funny enough, I announce for Alan Kapaki at my work. So it's like, So like, I'm like, this is perfect. Everything's lining up. And then out of nowhere, Ethan Page, that exact same day, gave me my very first match. And I'm like, I am completely unprepared. I have no gear. I'm fresh off of the plane. And he put me in a tag team match. It was me and my very first tag team partner ever, Holden Albright, against Anton, White Russian, and this other gentleman, Travis, who I never saw after that time. It was his very first match as well. And damn near like having a heart attack before the match, because I did not expect to get booked. I had no gear at the time, and everyone was giving me hell for that. But Page stuck up for me at that point. Because he literally just got back from training. He says he ordered it. He didn't expect getting booked. So they're like, oh, he's fresh off the boat. Oh, okay.
Oh, wrestlers. The puns that wrestlers make. Oh, he's fresh off the boat. Yeah, no, I just came off a plane, actually, not a boat. But thank you guys so much. It's awesome. Yeah.
And we were all basically ready to like crap our pants by the time we were gonna go out. And the person that calmed us all down was Heidi Lovelace, Ruby Riot. She was wrestling Kobe Durst for the Zero Gravity Championship on the show, and just like damn near having a heart attack, gathered us together. She gave us like an amazing pep talk, saw us out there. The match went well, and she was the first person to like give us a big hug as soon as we came to the back. So like, thank you to both Ethan Page and Heidi Lovelace for making like my very first like wrestling experience absolutely fantastic, and like truly feeling welcome for the first time in a wrestling locker room. But unfortunately, after that match, I wouldn't get back into a ring for almost 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the Alpha One show happened December 2015. And as soon as January hit, like my whole family got like hit with a curse, like throughout 2016. That year, we lost 12 family members in the span of that year. And I also lost a friend of mine in a car accident. Wow. That year. So it was a really, really rough year for the entire family. By the time the holidays came around that year, it was really, really rough. And it wasn't even like distant relatives. It was all like within like the core group of the family. And being Italian, we have so many family members. And then you see like 8 empty chairs at like Christmas time on one side of the family, and you're just like, you're heartbroken.
Of course.
And it wasn't until 2017, like spring of 2017, like I was still in a rut. And Rip Impact actually reached out to me. And the only reason why he reached out to me at the time was when I was doing the announcing, the music guy that we had there actually knew him, and he tried to get me in contact with him. So I shot Rip a message at one point in time, but I never got back to him because I was just so stuck in that rut. And he had no rhyme or reason to do what he did. He just out of nowhere messaged me out of the blue and said, hey, if you're serious actually getting back into the ring, it's like, let's meet up sometime. And we met up at a Tim Hortons, and he helped me basically set up a plan to get back into wrestling. And then by the end of 2017, I finally had my second ever wrestling match for HPW. So like, if it wasn't for Rip Impact, I wouldn't be wrestling today whatsoever. Wow. So like, thank you again, Rip, for like everything that you've done, even to this day, how much he's helped me and so many of the other guys at HPW. But like 2 years it took me to get back into the ring. And once I was with HPW, I only had about 16 matches. And then all of a sudden, my neck blows out. Not even doing anything in the ring. I don't even have any good story for it. I was literally in the gym. Somebody that I knew came in, and I turned my head and I heard like a loud crack. And it felt like it was a kink in my neck. I just couldn't turn my head. So I waited to go back to training for about a week. And by the time I went back, I took one bump in the ring and my arm just literally died on me.
shit.
I had no feeling in my arm, and it just crapped right out. And then my entire back season, I was hunched over, and I was like petrified.
Of course.
And I was basically out of action for another year on top of that. And I'm like, well, I felt cursed. I finally got back to HB. I finally got back into wrestling, had about 16 matches, was wrestling for about 8 months. And then I'm on the shelf for a year. And I didn't even know if I was going to be getting back. I had to go through multiple physio sessions, chiropractor, MRI, like everything. You name it, I had to go through it. And I'm like, well, this is great. Didn't really think I was going to be getting back into wrestling. And then it wasn't until like 2019, Father's Day, Ranch and AC, now owners of Battle Arts, they hold their first ever show for Hamilton Wrestling Entertainment. And I wanted to smack them because they booked me with them in the main event. And I'm like, I'm going to kill you guys, especially with the talent that they had on the show. They had Ethan Page on the show. They had Tyson Dukes on the show, BMD. Like, there were some fantastic names on this show. And then he's like, yeah, it's going to be you, Tyler Arrow, and Rip Impact against us, Raunchy Nuts and Pretty Ricky in the main event. And I'm like, I've had 16 matches. What's wrong with you?
But they saw something in you. That's why. They gave you that opportunity because they saw something in you.
Either that or we just became really good friends beforehand.
All right, I was trying to build an emotional connection to the story, but you sank the ship, Mike.
No, I had to at that point. But like, no, for like they always believed in me, and they're like, we're going to be your first match back. As soon as you're ready to get back into the ring, we're getting in the ring with you. And the match went a lot better than I thought it was going to be. A lot of people ended up enjoying the main event. A lot of the guys in the back really enjoyed it as well. And I'm like, okay, we're back. Here we go. And I ended up having a couple more matches after that. By the time I had the second match, it was with Tyler Arrow at Courage Pro Wrestling. They put us in one-on-one, and they had the idea of, you guys are going to fight each other, it'll go to a draw, and you guys are going to form a tag team for to wrestle for us at Courage Pro Wrestling. We're going to start building our tag team. So we go out, have the match, ends in a draw, and the crowd boos kind of thing. So we start teasing the rematch, and then we were like, or maybe everyone would want to see the team of Tyler Arrow and Mike Forte, and they got really excited for that. And so there, we were set as a tag team, and at the time it was only going to be for Courage Pro Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And me and Arrow start talking to each other like, how many full-time tag teams are actually in Ontario? Like, think about it. Like, all the tag teams that you see, they're only wrestling for certain promotions. Mm-hmm. You can name maybe on one hand the amount of full-time tag teams that will actually go from promotion to promotion mm-hmm. as a tag team. Some people will be like, oh, these guys, they tag team here and here, but this one guy has a different partner in this promotion, yada, yada, yada. We're like, you know what? Let's push the tag team bit with this. Let's see how far we can go. And Brad Myers was saying the exact same thing to us. He's like, guys, go for it. Like, there's no full-time tag teams in Ontario. And then we started having a couple of matches. We started getting booked even more as a tag team than we did as singles. We still get booked as singles, but like, it's at the point where, like, I'd say about 80% of the shows that we've gone to, we've been booked as a tag team now. And we finally, right before the pandemic, we were able to win our first tag team titles off of Empire at Courage Pro Wrestling. And it was the last show. I think it might have literally been the last wrestling show in the area out in Peterborough.
Wow.
And literally the week after that, everything was down. Like, shows were even canceling as we were on the way to Peterborough. There were supposed to be a couple of other shows happening that same weekend, and they all canceled, every single one of them. We were the only ones that continued, and what a crowd. Like, you couldn't have asked for a better crowd. If that was going to be the last crowd that I was going to wrestle in front of for a while, ecstatic how amazing of a crowd they were. And now we're just waiting for everything to come back. We've had a couple of tapings here and there, but like still want to get more matches under my belt. And it just kind of seems like every single time I'm getting my foot in the door, something's been putting up a roadblock, whether it was like when my family was going through all the deaths, the neck injury, and now COVID. I'm like, come on, man, can I please have a nice year run of wrestling? Like, can I at least make it to 365 days with wrestling?
You know what? I think you can, and I think you will with the vaccines now coming. And again, I'm not pro-vaccine. I'm not non-pro-vaccine. You want to get it to get back to real life, go ahead and do it. You don't want to get it, that's your choice. And I'm not just talking to you, Mike. I'm talking to everybody out there. But the fact is that you look at the States, you look at what the States has done, and they're putting on shows every weekend now for the last 2 or 3 months solid. Actually, maybe 4 months. Yeah. I've seen shows as early as January, February in the States, and they're going strong. They're going mass, they're going mass free, they're going pro-choice, whatever you want to do. So if we here in the lockdown capital of the world, not Canada, the world,
of the world,
the only province, only country that's had as many lockdowns as we've had, and that's because our government's a bunch of idiots. But hey, who am I to judge the people that we voted in? I'm not gonna lie, I voted for Doug Ford. If I had known a pandemic was coming, I wouldn't have voted for anybody. I would have said fuck it. But I voted for Doug Ford because I thought he was better off than fucking the other one, Kathleen Wynne. But hey, you know what? I lost that bet. I bet on Doug Ford. I lost that fucking bet. But now that the world is opening, we know that in July, we're going to go into stage 2, hopefully, unless the numbers spike again, which they haven't been. They've actually been very, very declining, very comfortable, because we know that province is about 65 or 66% fully vaccinated. So we're well over halfway now of getting there. But if shows do open up, you've obviously got to defend your titles at Courage Pro. You have, HWE. You have Alpha One, which I'm not sure how that's going to go now with Ethan Page being in AEW full time. I'm not sure if Alpha One is going to continue. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I'm not saying they're going to close up shop. There's not clickbait here, guys. I'm just trying to educate people. And you know what the funny thing is? I didn't even know what clickbait was till like 3 weeks ago. So I've been doing this YouTube shit for like a year. I had no idea what clickbait was. And then, well, if you want to know about that story, watch the 200 episode. I explain it all in there. I'm not going to get into it now. But the fact is that, we don't know what's going to happen with Alpha One, but then you've also got HPW. You've got, so many great promotions out there. You got Destiny World Wrestling, which you guys haven't tapped into yet. You've got Battle Arts Academy now, also associated with HWE. And we don't know how that's going to go. I mean, I text AC all the time, random stupid ideas, because I think I'm a booker. I'm like, what about an invasion angle, bro? But we do it like crazy. I go, what about if like the podcasters invaded? He's like, who's going to give a shit about that? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to be involved, fucker. I want to be part of shit. And you've also got Barry Wrestling. You've got, so many great promotions that are waiting in the wings to get started. So out of all those areas that you haven't tapped into yet, because we know you're tied in with Courage Pro, you've also got in with everybody in Hamilton already knows who Mike Forte is. There's areas of Ontario that you haven't branched out to. Are you looking when shows resume to start tapping into those markets a little bit more? Airstrike and Mike Forte aside, like, are you going to do solo stuff there? Also tag team stuff? Would you like to do both? Like, are there untapped promotions that you definitely want to get in the door with?
Oh, 100%. One of them that we're hoping to work for once everything's over is Crossfire out in the Niagara region, Fort Erie. And like, they always have like a great showing of talent over there. And like, it's definitely a step in the direction that Arrow and I want to go. More experienced wrestlers over there, a lot of different tag teams, especially like, it would be amazing to even get into the ring with the Deaners. Like, 2 guys like that, and really learn off of them, really pick their brains, getting in like at least like a handful of matches with them. I would absolutely love that. We were able to, during the pandemic, wrestle Space Pirates, and like, love those guys to death. They were like the number 1 team, like me personally, I really wanted to get into the ring with, and it was a blast getting into the ring with them. I would definitely want to get out to Barrie. I want to be able to like build up the experience to be like someone that like a company like Destiny, a company like Alpha One would want to book consistently. And like, if I'm not there at this moment, that's the goal once things start going, is get good enough to be able to get on shows like that. Even like wrestling out of province. It's like, if the states have to wait, the states have to wait. You got to walk before you run. But if it happens, it happens. And there's so many opportunities in Ontario. Like, there is a plethora of promotions in Ontario. Like, I think, when was it? I think they actually did a poll in 2019, the amount of promotions that ran at least one show in Ontario. And I think it was like, it was over 100. And that's like including like WWE, Impact, all the way to like your Destinies, Alpha Ones, Hamilton Pro Wrestling, like everything. We had over 100 promotions have at least one show in Ontario in 2019. Like, it's absolutely amazing. You have so many different places you can go, so many different opportunities, and like, it's at the point where it's like, if you're not getting booked, you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely. And you know what? I for the longest time, when I started this podcast 4.5 years ago, it was more just about highlighting Raw and SmackDown, because we were trying to find ourselves. And then it became getting exposed to the Ontario Indu Scene. And it came from Georgie Iceman, one of the great promoters in Ontario, runs Destiny Wrestling. We met him, we sat down, talked to him, and then it kind of steamrolled from there. He gave us access to a couple members of his roster. Then we branched out and started hitting other promotions. All of a sudden, I realized there was this fucking scene in my backyard that I never knew existed. I was, blinders on, WWE. I mean, if it's not perfect, that's what it is. And then, from there, I branched out into, I discovered New Japan a couple of years into my love of wrestling. And then I discovered, TNA at the time, which was Impact. And I loved everything they were doing, especially with the women's division, because I'm very pro women's wrestling, being a girl dad. And then all of a sudden you get into this and you're like, holy shit, all this has been going on. And then we started highlighting the indie scene, but then I started getting mad because I'm like, no, I don't want to highlight it. I want to keep it. I want to keep it for myself. I want to be greedy right now. But then I couldn't, because there's so much amazing talent here. And I say this all the time. Like, there's talent that I've been able to see in Canada because they're solely in Canada because of all the red tape. And this was something that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode I want to get into, is the fact a lot of people don't understand the hoops that Canadian wrestlers have to jump through. One of the best unsigned indie wrestlers for a long time in Ontario was the walking weapon, Josh Alexander.
100%.
And then he gets signed to Impact Wrestling because he worked his ass off. He paid his dues and he fucking lit it up everywhere he went. And there's not one wrestler in this province, in the world, that hasn't tangled with Josh Alexander, that can't say he is hands down one of the top 5 wrestlers in the world today. I'll put that on anybody's list. And if anybody
he's fantastic.
Anybody wants to challenge me on that, fucking come at me, because I've got enough knowledge to back it up. And also speak about Mike Bailey. You can't, for the longest time, you could only get him here in Canada or in Japan because of all the red tape. So do you believe that maybe hopefully with the pandemic, it doesn't revert back to be even more restrictions, but do you believe that they should make it so much more easier for wrestlers to come in and out of Canada in order to showcase their abilities to the world?
Well, 100%. I wish that could be a thing. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of concerns that, like, really, it shouldn't really matter to anybody. It's not like there's some sort of illegal trade going on between these people. It's like, they want to come there and they want to work. And like, you got to have, like, literally, you got to have this piece of paper. You got to have this piece of paper. You got to have this piece of paper. And they could literally turn you around at the border just cause. And it's like, but I have all this. It's like, why are you turning me around? And sometimes it could literally be somebody says something across the border, and it could be something very, very petty, and they won't even have any proof of it. Like, I've heard of people literally not being able to travel back to the States because, like, oh, this guy was making money without a green card, and the guy totally had his green card, and he literally got blacklisted. Got his green card taken away, and it's like, yeah, here's the green card I totally don't have. Thanks for taking it away, and thanks for believing whatever lie was told, and now you're in purgatory of Canada. Now I can only wrestle here for, like, I can't remember how long those, like, suspensions go for. I think it's like 5 or 6 years. Then you got to wait for that to go out, and then it's like, great, that's 6 years of your career that you can't travel to the States, where, like, there's so much more exposure there. And, like, so many of the guys around here, like their popularity blew up as soon as they started wrestling in the States. Because I don't know if it's just like the way the promotion is in the States, but like word gets around faster there for some reason.
Well,
and like
it's a network.
yes,
It's a stronger network than ours, and I'm not saying that as a slap in the face. It's just I find a lot of promoters here don't really talk to one another. I find a lot of promoters here try to keep things amongst themselves, and it's like, why can't we share the talent? Why can't we build the talent from within? We want to highlight this country. I've been saying for a long time that we need an NXT North up here. I mean,
yes,
NXT UK has something. NXT, obviously the States has it locked down. But what about NXT North? And there are so many wrestlers on the NXT roster that have wrestled here, that have fan bases here, that know the talent here. Couple names off the top: Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Karrion Kross, or like there's so many members. Keith Lee has wrestled here a bunch of times. So many members of that roster, or former members of that roster, that have wrestled here and know the talent that is waiting in the wings. And it's almost like, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show, Mike, because it's been a while since I've had a homegrown talent on the show. And I feel like I have enough of a name, enough of a reputation here for the great stories and conversations that I have with my guests, that it highlights talent that people may not see. So at the end of this, if anybody doesn't get an education on who Mike Forte is, you need to shut up, sit down, and pay attention, because you are very, very, very talented in the ring. And there's a guy from Montreal who I consider to be the next great talent, somebody who's been in the business for a very long time, named Jeremy Prophet. And he prophesizes nothing but the truth. And he's been on a crusade since he hooked up with another great podcast, another great group of Canadian guys called Jofo in the Ring. He hooks up and he literally has been pioneering and pushing and crusading for Canadian talent to get noticed. And he won the Jericho Award. So he won a free training session with Lance Storm. And I'm sure him and Lance Storm probably had conversations. Jericho knows who he is. And that's the thing, right? That's what frustrates you. You got guys like Jericho, guys like Lance Storm, guys like Bret Hart, guys like the Hart family. There's so many great Kevin Owens, so many great Canadian talents that have come out of here. Like nobody's figured, like in the great halls of Vince McMahon and having 20,000 people up his ass, nobody stuck their head out of his ass and say, hey, got a lot of great talent coming out of Canada. And the history of wrestling is kind of built around Canada. Should we send a scout up there? Yeah, you fucking really, you should. You should.
That's a bit of a big brain move, don't you think?
I mean, it's not logical at all. It's kind of taking a huge gamble and a risk, but I mean,
it's one of those things that makes too much sense, so it's not worth it.
Well, exactly, and the same thing with AEW. Like Jericho is one of the front runners, the first big signee they had, other than the guys who are obviously in front of the camera, but also behind the scenes. You would figure a guy like Tony Khan, who wants to change the wrestling landscape, a guy who loves to go on every podcast he can get on to hear his name, to hear himself speak. I mean, he's the only Tony in wrestling. He's the only Khan in wrestling. Shut the fuck up. But the fact is that you have a guy like Jericho who knows the talent here, or who should. Because if I'm from Canada and I have the clout in the industry that I have, I want to keep my ear to the grindstone. So we can bring up the next Jericho. We can bring up the next Kevin Owens. We can bring it. Like, you got a guy like Speedball Mike Bailey waiting in the fucking wings. And nobody snatched this fucking guy up.
And it's not even just him. There's like a massive group that I've gotten to know, like here in Ontario, where it's like, why aren't these guys signed? Like, one person that I think like has everything. Like, if there's one promotion I can really see him in, it's NWA, Tyler Turba. Like, I don't know why, but I see Tyler Turba, NWA. And like, not only that, like the guy's got everything. He's got a look. He could talk. He's fantastic in the ring. I was fortunate to be in the ring with him a couple of times now, and like, he's an amazing talent. And there's so many other people. Like, you got the Night Train, just insane. You have Jody Threat. You have the Space Pirates. You have so many other people around here that are just incredibly talented. And you're trying to pick everyone's brain all at the same time. Like, if one of the things Lance and Rip would say to their students is, don't be afraid to branch off. He's like, I'm not trying to like hoard you here. Like, you're my talent. This will always be your home base, but don't be afraid to go get words of wisdom from this person. Don't be afraid. Like when Josh was still training out in Schaumburg, I went there like close to a dozen times. It was near the end until like right before when he shut down. So I was able to go up a good like 9 or 10 times. And like, that was a whole other experience in itself, being able to learn from him, and even being able to get into the ring with him that one time in Courage Pro Wrestling with my 30th match. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing booking me against Josh Alexander? It's my 30th match.
You got to stop that. You got to stop saying stuff like that. Okay. There's a reason why you're booked. You need to start having a little bit of an ego, because you are talented. It's okay to be humble. It is okay. I always say that. Stay humble, and you're rewarded with good friends and good relationships in this business. And I have the ability to now call Mike Forte a friend of mine. But the fact is, you can't deny your talent. You've got something special. And again, it's not because I'm jealous of your hair. I appreciate your hair, but I appreciate your ability in the ring. So please, you've said it twice. There will not be a third time. Do not say it for the rest of this interview. Understand you got booked for Josh Alexander based on your talent.
I lasted the whole 30 with him.
There you go. You went a whole 30 minutes with Josh Alexander. And I'm sure at the end of the match, knowing him and knowing how great of a human being he is, he came up and he said, dude, that was a great match. And I know he did.
It was a lot of fun. And like, he broke down the whole match. I asked him, like, what critique can you give me? And he's like, I guess I don't hold back on the critiques. Just to give you a heads up, I'm like, don't throw any BS at me. I don't learn anything if you sugarcoat. It's like, if I'm the shits, I'm the shits. Tell me I'm the shits. And he told me everything in the matches. I like this. I guess you got to do this a different ways. I guess work on this turned out very good. No. You listen very well here. And he's like, you were able to correct the mistake here, like without my help whatsoever. Yada yada yada. Like, it was a really good like pep talk, and I didn't realize how long we were talking with each other too. It was like a little over an hour. He was having this conversation with me, and it's like, oh my god, it's like it's halftime. It's intermission. It's like it's like, I guess we'll go sell our stuff. It's like, thank you very much.
That's great though, right? I mean, that's somebody who took the time to break it down, say, hey, certain parts were awesome, certain parts were rough, certain parts are fixable. So how else do you learn and get better? But there was a reason why the promoter decided to book you with it. And it was probably knowing that hour-long conversation was going to help make you better and learn some knowledge from a guy like Josh Alexander. So that's why you were booked. I mean, if I could see it, I don't understand why you can't see it. That's a pretty logical move, in my opinion. Pretty logical. Pretty logical move. But so tagging with Tyler Arrow, it's definitely one hell of an experience, and you guys gel so well. But the one thing I know, and I'm not trying to get too personal, but when we were sitting down, we were having our little conversation in Hamilton Pro, both of you were very open and honest about your up and down battles with mental health. I mean, the depression stuff sinks in. Like you said, every chance you've had to try to get a steady stream going, something happens. 12 deaths in the family. You lost your best friend in a car accident. Then your neck injury. Then, you know, and you've had roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. But the way I look at those roadblocks is that they're just mountains you got to climb. Once you climb over, you got to get up and you got to keep moving. And I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone's had those challenges. I've had those challenges, not the span of 12 deaths, but I've lost people, and I've lost friends. I've gained friends. I've lost knowledge. I've gained knowledge. I've had great conversations with some of my heroes, and then I've had conversations with people who I looked at as my heroes. And then when you have a conversation, when the record button's on, it's all professional. When the record button's off, I've realized a lot about wrestling. And you know what? There's, like you said, one other thing before we get into the mental health stuff is that there's a great talent in AC Coca, and I know why he hasn't been signed. Because of Dave. I have huge beef with Dave. Dave knows this. I've never sugarcoated it. And that's why I've told AC to drop Dave, but he won't. He won't do it. He says he needs his barber, and that's fine. But I know the reasons why. And Dave, I know you can see me. And don't get me wrong. One day we're going to have that hair versus hair match. And I'm going to shave your fucking head. And it's going to be gold. I'm challenging you now, Dave. As soon as shit opens up, you and me, hair versus hair match. And I'm going to wipe the floor with you. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I haven't figured that part out yet. But I will win. Anyways, mental health issues, up and down battles. What Like, what's that like, having somebody going through the same thing, somebody as being able to lean on that person when all this stuff's going on?
During this whole pandemic, like the first time me and Arrow were able to talk with each other, gave him a call just out of the blue. I think it was maybe about a month and a half into the pandemic. Like, no one had seen anybody, and I'm like, I got to start making the rounds. I got to start making the calls, see how everyone's doing, because at that point, no one was really like taking that initiative to kind of start checking up on people. So the first person I called was Nick, and that conversation lasted almost 5 hours. I was going to call a bunch of other people that day. It was just Arrow and I, and like, we talked about anything and everything. He told me how like it was weighing down on him. I told him everything like that I was feeling, and it's like, I feel like I'm just melting away. Everything, like, I feel like my body's just starting to seize up, and by the time we get back into the ring, I'm gonna get slammed on the mat and I'm gonna shatter into a million pieces. And like, we just kind of had the same feelings, and we were just talking about everything. And after about like that 5 hour conversation, like, if we weren't close before, we got even closer at that point. And then from that point, we just kind of started just always checking up on each other, whether it was like sending each other stupid stuff online, or just like trying to find a loophole to even meet up somewhere, even if it was like to grab a coffee or something like that, and just let it all out. And it's like, here's everything that's going on. Here's what I'm mad about right now. Here's the stress I'm dealing with. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for not judging. And cheers with the coffee. It's like, so about that hair product stuff.
Is that where the brainchild came from? Is that when you had the time to really sit down and think, fuck it, let's roll the dice on this shit, right?
It was during the pandemic. It was literally that. We just started talking about it, and as soon as Ranch came up to us and like said, hey, I can make that happen for you guys, it's like, I literally called up Arrow and was like, so here's the thing. Remember that crazy idea about making our own brand of shampoo? Ranch can make it happen for us. He's like, you're kidding, right? It's like, no, let's take this ball and run.
Well, okay, so great. Now you've made me now I got to go on camera, and I got to be professional here, Mike. So I'm going to do this. Ranch, thank you for doing that for Airstrike. I really, really appreciate you for doing that. There, I was nice. That's the nicest I'm going to be to fucking Dave. That's it. That's the nicest I'm going to be.
All right. If it makes you feel any better, I was his very first singles match, and he lost.
Yes, I do feel better. I feel all kinds of better. Yes, I do. Thank you for that. That's vindication, baby. Vindication. So when you get the next run, you need to message me so I can send you $10 so I can get a bottle autographed by both of you. I'm never going to use it. I'll keep it in my my wonderful studio here, the Straight Talk Studios, and I want to get I'll put it right up there, right between the Fiend and Sting. There it is, right there, so it can be seen for the masses. That's right.
Some high honor next to the Fiend and Sting.
Yeah, that's right. Considering I only have 6 or 7 action figures, because I'm not a crazy collector. I just got the guys that I love. That was about it. But a couple more questions. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. As soon as you mentioned action figures, I basically like the one NSW show that happened in between that little break of the January-December lockdown, and then everything shut down again in March. Was able to bring all of my action figure stuff to NSW while we were doing the recordings. And I opened the bag. I'm like, all right, guys, have fun. I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, grab what you want and go. I'm going to be moving pretty soon. Grab what you want and go. I'm not bringing this stuff with me. And they're like, everyone just kind of like, oh, I'll take this one figure. I'll take this one figure. In comes Pretty Ricky. He's like, all of them? He's like, yeah, take whatever you want. Picked it all up and went, and everyone came up at me. Is there anything else you're willing to part with? I'm like, I'm gonna have to go beat up Pretty Ricky in the parking lot for the rest of it. He just took them all and he left.
He took them all and he left. That's Ricky, though. That's what Ricky does for you, man. That's what Ricky does for you. So out of out of everything that's happening, we hope to get shows in July. We're going to get some summer shows. Obviously, the first show or the first booking you guys are going to be getting is defending those Courage Pro titles. If the booker comes to you and the promoter comes to you and says, listen, who do you want a shot at? Who do you want to be the first team you defend against? Who would you have in your mind? Considering, like you said, there's only a few. I mean, off the top of my head, there's you guys. There's obviously Raunchy Nuts. There is Empire, which you've had many battles for. There is obviously, oh my God, they're gonna kill me. The Dirty Bets, the Dirty Bets, Fight or Flight. Like these are teams that run as teams, so there's not a whole lot. That's it. And then, of course, if I could name anybody, there's a team out from the East End of Canada. I actually wore the shirt specifically to mention their names because they are two of the nicest individuals. And yeah, there was some stuff about the speaking out movement, but we got all past that. We know what happened. I'm not condoning anything that was said or done, but as far as I'm concerned, one of them owned up to it and he apologized. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get any more detail than that. But the simple fact of the matter remains, that's who I would like to see Airstrike go toe-to-toe with. If it can happen safely. But who would you like to step in the ring with to defend those Courage Bowl tag team titles with?
There are two teams that come to mind. One of them we've faced before is Fight or Flight. We faced them once, but it was in a ladder war for MAPW. And I think we want a traditional tag team match against them. And another team that we would love to get in the ring with, two people that like made a huge name for themselves in the Germanian club where Courage Pro Wrestling runs out of, would be Jim Rats 2.0, Scotty O'Shea, and Del Bruno. Those two guys, like I got Scotty O'Shea was one of the guys on my wish list that I wanted to wrestle one-on-one. I was able to wrestle him one-on-one in NSW and like had an absolute blast with him and like really happy with how the match turned out. He had a lot of fun, and like Del Bruno's another person I really want to have a one-on-one match with as well. And I also just love them as a tag team. And like I've seen them like have all these many tag title runs, and they've reunited for Hamilton Wrestling Entertainment. It's like, why not bring them to Courage Pro Wrestling? We have something that maybe they want. And I would absolutely love to get into the ring with them. They're definitely, to me right now, the number one tag team I would like to get into the ring with. I also would love to get into the ring with Space Pirates again.
Absolutely. And I think every one of those teams that you mentioned and the one I threw in myself, I think those would all be four great matches. But the only problem I have with one of them is Fight or Flight. Now, the only reason I say that is because there would have to be a sequence in the match for about 2 minutes long where you and Vaughn would do just hair flips.
I'd be down.
It have to happen.
Oh, 100%.
It has to.
100%.
And it has to be one of those like hair flips where you flip your hair and go, and the crowd goes, ah! And then they flip their hair, and the crowd go, boo, you know? It would have to be one of those hair flip maneuvers.
We'll get shirts made. You know, like those special event shirts? Like, I was there for Hair Flip Nation.
Yes. I love it. I was there for the Hair Flip War of 2021.
Sell them just for that show and never again. People are like, oh, I want to buy that shirt. You should have been there.
Oh, yeah. And I can totally see you say that. Hey, Mike, awesome, man. I'll take a bottle of shampoo. I would love an autograph. Can I get a picture? And hey, do you have any of those hair flip? No. Everything else you can get.
Yeah.
You cannot get the were you there?
Like,
no, I wasn't there. But I heard about it. Well, hearing about it and being there, that's why the shirt specifically says I was there. If you were not there, you did not get the shirt.
No, I'm not going to, I guess, look, I'm a businessman. I'm not going to turn around and turn you into a liar.
Exactly. Your integrity is all you have. And if you were not at the Hair Flip War of 2021, you are not allowed to own a shirt. No, absolutely not. That's right.
The only way we'll sell it to you afterwards, you got to bring your ticket.
That's right. Yes.
You have to bring your ticket.
Proof of purchase.
Proof of purchase. Yes.
And you know what? We'll give you $2 off because that's the guys we are. Instead of $20 a shirt, 18. But we don't make change. So if all you have is a 20, we'll take a 20. There's no change being made here. No change.
100%.
You know what? Let me handle all the logistics for you on this. We'll make bank, all kinds of bank.
Let's do it.
And my final question: if there was anyone in the wrestling world history that you could sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with, dead or alive? I know it's a tough question. I asked those questions here. This is the first time I'm ever asking this question, but I think you would have a great answer for it. So if you had 1 hour to pick the brain of any wrestler in the history of wrestling, current, retired, dead, or alive, who would you choose that 1 hour conversation with?
Oh man, you got me thinking here. There's so many different ones for different reasons.
Yes, you got to give me one. You got to narrow it down. I got to go tough on you, buddy. I'm sorry.
If I could pick a handful, like Eddie Guerrero for sure.
Of course.
100% I have to go with Eddie as one of, like, if I were to name a top 3, Eddie for sure. Another one just based on, like, the guy that basically got me watching wrestling, The Undertaker.
Okay.
Like, got all these bright, colorful guys when I was watching wrestling. Then all of a sudden, lights go out. See this big, ominous figure come into the ring. I'm like, who the hell is that? And that was the reason why I started watching wrestling. So I was like, well, I'd love to even have a conversation with him. And the other person, the guy who got me watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Okay.
Would be another person. Also, another gentleman with absolutely fantastic hair.
That is true. That's true. You're right.
Tanahashi. It could be yours for the low price of $10.
And he'll drive it to you. He'll drive it all the way. He'll spend $3,000 just to get over there to you.
One over there.
Right over there.
I think I'll set up a Canada Post on that one.
You know, it's funny you mentioned New Japan, because I remember, and we'll go a little bit longer in this one, but I remember you telling me a hilarious story of when you were training at Landstorm School, and there was a sushi restaurant you all used to go to. And one of the guys you were training with bit off literally a little bit more than he could chew. And, well, I'm not going to give it away, but Mike, please, if you could, as before we wrap it up and we get your socials, please tell the infamous all-you-can-eat sushi story, please. Please tell it.
I love how sushi's just becoming a part of the overall gimmick with me and Arrow. I absolutely love it. Now, I'm going to plug the wrestler as well, because he is still wrestling in Australia.
Perfect.
I got to know him as Jake Lowe. The wrestling community gets to know him as Kai Drake.
Okay.
Now, there was this sushi restaurant that opened up about a month into training. And we were all saying to each other, like, we were teasing each other, like, we got to find a good sushi restaurant around here. We got to go for sushi. And it became such a long-going joke from the start of training to the end that, like, Lance didn't want to hear it anymore. And, like, a handful of the students, only, like, 3 of them. One of them was Rachel, and then the other one was Dennis and Jay. They were the only people that were, like, completely turned off of it. Like, we don't want to hear you guys mention sushi again for how much you guys talk about it. Like, we went from loving sushi, we don't even want to be in the same vicinity of the restaurant you guys are going to. And we were going there on, I'd say, a minimum 2-3 times a week right after training, because the lunch special's still going on. $13 all you can eat. We were just going ham. I don't know if they loved us or hated us by the time we were gone, because they just opened up. They were getting so much money from us, but at the same time, the sheer amount that we were eating, oh my goodness. I always end up being the guy that orders. For all the years I've gone to sushi restaurants, I know how much people are going to eat, and I know how much to order. And there was never a time that we were there where people felt like they were going to die and there was still food on the table. They felt like they were going to die as soon as they had that last bite, and they're like, okay, I'm done, no mas. So I was late one of the times. I had to go over to the bank and deal with whatever the heck I had to deal with there, and it ended up being about a half hour. So Jake decided, I guess, I'm going to take over the mantle of ordering for people. So by the time I came in, they already had food at the table. I'm like, oh, perfect. What else did you order? Oh, this is coming out. This is coming out. This is coming out. Okay, awesome. And all of a sudden, like, man, we don't have to put another order in. They just keep bringing out food to us. This is insane. I'm like, man, Jake, you ordered like in one shot. That was great. As time went by, they kept bringing out more and more food, and everyone starts going, man, I'm really getting full. I'm like, and then they bring out a giant boat that had about 100 pieces of sushi on it. And I'm like, I guess this is the grand finale. Finish it all off. And I'm like, okay, that was wonderful, but no more. They bring out another boat. And I'm like, what are they doing? Like, Jake, how much did you order? I'm like, I ordered enough for everybody. So I pull over the waitress and I ask them, I'm like, how many more things of sushi are coming out? They're like, you have 60 more rolls coming out. I'm like, now when you say 60 more rolls, do you mean individual pieces or entire rolls? They're like, you have 60 entire rolls still coming out. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, what the hell did you order? He's like, well, everyone said that they were hungry, so I ordered 10 of everything. I'm gonna kill you. So I said to her, what hasn't been made? Cancel everything. They're like, go to the back. And she comes out. I guess there are 3 rolls that were just made. They're gonna come out. Everything else got canceled. I'm like, thank you. We'll eat those 3 rolls. No problem. They bring the 3 rolls to the table. We all look over at Jake, grab the rolls and push it over to him ever so slowly. And he's like, guys, I'm full. You should have thought of that before you ordered 10 of everything on the freaking menu.
So how many individual pieces are in a roll?
They range anywhere from 6 to 8.
So let's say that was 24 pieces. I'm gonna go with 8 each. So that was 24 pieces more he had to eat on top of that other boat. Was that other boat, the second boat, was it gone?
The second boat, I don't know how we did it.
But you did it.
But we ate it. I'm also a bit of a furnace. I burn off food like nothing. Right before the pandemic ended, we went to a place. Me, Rip, and Arrow. We're like, everything is going to get shut down again. Let's go someplace to eat. And we ended up at Chuck's Roadhouse. Like, pretty decent place for just getting like some like good like priced, decent quality steaks. Only place I know where you can get a 20-ounce porterhouse for $25.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So go there. We ordered this like serves 6 of buffalo chicken nachos. It was gone. I ordered the 20-ounce porterhouse. I had a baked potato for the side. Everyone else orders their food. And Rip's like, I feel like I can do a dessert. How about you guys? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And Arrow's like, yeah, I think I'll get something as well. Waitress comes. Rip orders his dessert. Arrow changes his mind. He's like, I'm going to have a beer instead. She looks at me. What will you have? I'll have another porterhouse, please. All 3 of them are looking at me. The waitress, Rip, and Arrow. They're like, are you serious? I'm like, dude, I feel the exact same now than when I came in. Another porterhouse, please. But you know what? I'll have a salad for the side this time.
Oh my God. So back to the sushi story, because we sidetracked a little bit there. Did he finish the 3 rolls?
He finished, and he was in a bit of a coma afterwards. But one thing him and I bonded over, it doesn't take long for us to get hungry again. And then I'd say about 3 hours later, him and I ordered a pizza.
Oh my. Oh my God. Well, and for all you gentlemen out there, most of us got to put the work in. I look at a pizza and I gain 10 pounds. Just hearing your sushi story, I gained 10 pounds.
I have Justin Sane helping me with the workout routine, and
so do I. My wife and I booked him as our personal trainer, so he's got us on water. We're doing his YouTube workouts. My wife is a little bit more faithful than I am, just because of work and the podcast. I fit it in when I can. I'm right now, I want to say 1 to 2 a week. I'm hoping to get it up to 3 to 4 a week if I can. But we're doing like the 10-minute, 50-minute workouts, and the last one was the low impact workout, which for me was not low impact. I was sweating profusely. I was cursing his name. Justin Sane, if you're watching this, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
I kind of have to say that as well, because one of the workouts he had me do to really push myself was 100 deadlifts. It was basically 10 by 50 straight leg, 10 by 50 sumo. And by the end of my bulk, I'm like, okay, he said to really push yourself on the last day, so I'm going to push myself. It was the only workout I did that day. And then I did cardio and I went home. I did not finish my workout. Yes, Justin, I know, shame on me, but I pushed myself. And I did 315 about 100 times. It took me about an hour and a half, but I did it.
Good for you. Good for you.
As soon as it was over, I'm like, I'm going on the treadmill and I'm going home and I'm going to have myself some ravioli and a nap.
There you go. There you go. And you know the great thing about Justin Sane is that he's one of the nicest guys in the world. And
Great guy.
His motivation skills are off the charts. And even like my wife messaged him after. My wife's like, George is cursing you. He's like, George can curse me now, but when he sees the results 6 months from now, he's going to love me even more. It's like, listen, bro, I still love you. You family. But fuck you. That low impact workout was not low impact. It was very, very straining. And there's muscles that I haven't used in years that are hurting. Still right here. It's hard to breathe because somehow I strained the right side of my stomach or the left side of my stomach. Yeah. And I haven't used those since rugby. So Justin Sane, your low impact workout is not low impact. Fuck. All right. Mike, this has been an amazing conversation. And obviously, as I tell everybody, but especially to you, sir, you are now a member of the Straight Talk family. Anytime.
Thank you for having me.
We'd love to have you back. Go ahead and shout out all your socials. Let everyone know where they can get the hair strike. And don't forget that when you do get the second run, you better DM me because I get a fucking bottle signed by both you and Arrow.
Oh, don't worry. We're probably going to be making another commercial once we get everything up and going. So awesome. You could follow me on Facebook through Mike Forte. Follow me on Instagram, Mike Forte HPW. And if you're willing to give me a shout and put me on your show, my Gmail is mikefortehpw@gmail.com. You could also follow and DM me on any of those wonderful social media outlets and pick up your very own bottle of Hair Strike Everyday Use Shampoo.
Oh my God. That is the picture perfect way to end this. So from all of us here at the Straight Talk Faithful, from my guest, Mike Forte, and myself, your host, your boy, thank you so much for watching. Peace, love, and wrestling, and great hair care products. And we will see you guys all next time. Peace.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week for another great episode on all available podcast platforms and hosted on Podbean. Also, check us out on YouTube at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And if you feel the need to buy some sweet merch, check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Leaving the scene with no trace, not in my league. You out of place. I'm not at the top. I'm outer space. Can't eat with us. We're out of place. I'm doing fine. I'm feeling great. You're not my fan.